Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Notre Dame fans, whenever you are tuning into this week's Notre Dame Six Pack Show. Really appreciate you all for making us a part of your day. I'm Mike Singer, with me, Jack Soble and Tyler Horka, Blue and Gold beat writers. We got to talk to Marcus Freeman today. When I say we, these guys here. So we're going to talk about some things from Freeman. We're going to talk about the Notre Dame Miami game, which is just a few days away, and more. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. I trust that these guys are well, so we're going to go ahead and dive into the show. Jack, I have been hinting at this. I mean, maybe not even hinting is the right word. I've been saying Botelho is ahead of schedule, and I tried to hint that he might be ready for this Miami game, and he's at least going to dress. How surprised are you about this, Jack?
Not too surprised since I read Mike's reporting. And by the way, happy birthday, Mr. Singer. Good old 25 years old. Mike is
+7.
But no, yeah, Botelho, and we should stress that he will be available. That does not mean he will play. Notre Dame has, and I assume every team, but Notre Dame has done he's available, but he tried to give it a go pregame and he dressed, but he's not actually going to play routine plenty of times over the last couple of years, at least since I've been on the beat. So certainly a situation to monitor. And unsurprisingly, he was listed as an or third string, but still third string. They still have Viper listed. It's left defensive end behind Boubacar Traore and Junior Tuihalamaka. He was the or backup with Tuihalamaka. But it's obviously great news. And I think if Botelho does play, I wouldn't expect more than 10, 12, 15 snaps at the most. Then you have the bye week, and then you get him as close to full strength as he can get for Texas A&M.
That's why I'm a little surprised, even with Mike's reporting, that this is a thing, because I get it. It's your biggest game of the year. You look at the AP Top 25. This is the team that is ranked the highest among your opponents right now. Probably the team that's going to be ranked the highest among your opponents at the end of the year. Things I'm reading about Miami is, if all goes well, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in this show, maybe they're a college football playoff type of team. So this is it out of the gate, Jack. And Marcus Freeman kind of said that to us in May when we sat down with him for our little summer beat sit down thingy mabob, or whatever you want to call that. He's like, we're not easing into this season. We've got some dingers right away. Obviously, this is the biggest of those. So that's when you kind of talk yourself into Jordan Botelho playing at least a small role in it, right? And it kind of reminds me of Mitchell Evans at Texas A&M last season, where he plays on third down, and I don't think he played a down other than third down against the Aggies, and they kind of strung him along in that September timeframe as well. You can really string Botelho along, like you said, Jack, with the bye week. But then you play the Aggies again. So it's a confluence of a lot of things. It's a tune-up for him because he hasn't played a football game in a long time. But it's also, man, if he can go out there and get you a sack on third down, that might be a game-changing play. And the way that we think of Jordan Botelho at this point, based on the way he started last season, is that he's a game-changing type of player. So a lot of things going on. I really have no idea exactly what to expect, but I do know that Jordan Botelho, the football player, he gives you everything he's got every time he goes out there. So if they send him onto the field, he's going to try to get after Carson Beck. I can assure you that.
And I do agree with you that if we do see him, it's going to be mainly on those third and pass situations. Kind of like you mentioned, the Mitchell Evans situation. Mitchell Evans only played in third down passing situations for the offense. Kind of the same with Botelho on defense. Botelho's return, though, does speak to the larger point that, I don't know if Marcus Freeman outright said it, but he implied it, that he believes his best defensive line that he's had at Notre Dame. That's even without Howard Cross and Riley Mills, which Mills was at his best last year. Cross wasn't really healthy all last year, but obviously we saw what Cross could do in 2023. But on the edges, Notre Dame is 60 with Botelho back. I asked about Bryce Young. He said that not only is he bigger, which everyone can see, he's using that size to his advantages, and he's become a powerful football player. He's going to start. He said Jason Onye right now is practicing as well as any defensive lineman that he's had at Notre Dame, which obviously is a strong statement given that Howard Cross and Riley Mills were here. Donovan Heinisch, he's been very complimentary of. He said he's making him forget about his older brother. And then we know what Boubacar Traore can do. So, like, if this front four is what Notre Dame thinks it is, man, that's a high ceiling, physically imposing. I think it's definitely the most physically imposing defensive line, Heinisch's stature notwithstanding. But you got Traore, who's a monster, Young, who's a super monster, Jason Onier, who's bigger and better than we've ever seen him. Like, this is a really imposing group, and Botelho being back just adds to the depth and just the amount of options that Notre Dame has with this group.
Yeah, that's the larger point for sure. And I'm with you, Jack. It seemed like Marcus Freeman was giddy about it in his press conference today, because we did the same thing in the little recap video that we did. You just start rattling off the names, and you're like, holy cow, the depth. Like, you call it the front four right there. You could really call it the front 12 or something like that, because you're going to see a lot of people play. Not so sure they get all the way down to Logan Thomas like Freeman was insinuating, but heck, man, he gives you something a little different. He's like, if Boubacar Traore and Bryce Young are your monsters, and by the way, Burnham and Tui Alamaka are big dudes as well. Like, you bring in Logan Thomas in a certain situation, and he'll give you something that maybe those guys don't, just in terms of like
more situational pass rush reps.
Exactly. So, yeah, and then I think the last thing here is, I'm with Marcus Freeman in saying that I was a little worried about the defensive tackles going into camp. I'm far less worried about them coming out, and that's because Jason Onier is having the fall camp, or the, like, whatever you want to call it, that he's having, and Heinisch is a team captain, and just top to bottom, man, with this defensive line, Botelho, he's a cherry on top that he's going to be able to play.
Marcus Freeman met with the media for the first time since naming CJ Carr his starting quarterback. Tyler, what did he say about Carr today? And then we'll go to Jack on the Minchie side.
Yeah, and he can kind of round out any Carr things that I might have missed, but he said a lot of really good things. I think you got to start with my question, which was the first about quarterbacks, and there was probably 4, 5, 6 questions. A typical Notre Dame press conference on the quarterback front. But I asked him what separated these two guys, and he more or less said not a lot when you look at the statistics of how they grade practices and just the way that these guys operated in a quarterback competition. It was tight. It was as neck and neck as we let on at blueandgold.com in these videos, everything. All of that was true. But, and I love this out of Marcus Freeman, because I wrote a column, I think it was in a Hey Horka. I said, man, if this is what it is, if it is this close between your two quarterbacks, make a gut decision. Be a head coach. Say, this is my guy. This is who we're rolling with. And he said all those things today too. He said, it's awesome to have direction. Like, this team has direction with the QB1. That's CJ Carr. And he said he arrived there because of a gut decision. I love that. If you feel like Carr is your guy, make him your guy, put him out there as QB1, see what happens. And then Kenny Minchie is still right there if you need him. Like Jack's about to get to, he said a lot of good things about Minchie, but what he said about Carr was one of the most intelligent football players you could ever be around. He's confident, sometimes overly so, and that gets you into trouble as a quarterback, but sometimes that does just sensational things as a quarterback as well if you have that confidence, and you can't really teach it. Like, I wouldn't say maybe you aren't born with it if your grandfather's name is Lloyd Carr, but you just kind of have it or you don't, and he does. And he has the physical stuff, Marcus Freeman said, but he also has all of those intangible things, that you need to go out there and beat a team like Miami or Texas A&M, or just start 12 games as a quarterback at Notre Dame. So CJ Carr, he's that dude, and Notre Dame's rolling with him.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a good decision like that, you just better be right. It's the bottom line. I did think, and I don't blame him for making that. Like, if it was that close, that's what he should do. But it's just, you gotta re-earn the benefit of the doubt here. And I think Marcus Freeman has the benefit of the doubt, but it's just gotta work out for Notre Dame, because this is the decision for the next 2 to 3 years. Were you gonna say something, Ty?
I was just gonna say, like, we'll find out maybe soon if it was right or not, because the knee-jerk reaction is going to be, if CJ Carr struggles in this game, it should have been Kenny Minchie, and it would have been vice versa.
And that reaction will be wrong, at least for the time.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page about that.
Yeah, no, that reaction will be wrong, at least for this. So, like, this, you have to be right for a long-term perspective. We've been banging the drum that, like, if not if, when Carr struggles to some extent against Miami. Like it's not an indictment on him from a long-term perspective in any way, shape, or form. But on the Minchie side, it was a good question. I think Pete Sampson might ask this. What Kenny Minchie showed in camp that made the decision hard. Freeman said decision-making, arm strength, leadership in his own way. His own way is Freeman's phrasing. I think what I take that to mean is like Minchie's not a super rah-rah leader guy, certainly not in the way Carr is, but the kind of unfazed stuff we've seen from Kenny Minchie, that he never gets rattled. That I think showed out and impressed the coaching staff in camp. And he said he's good enough to be the starting quarterback in Notre Dame, and the statistics were similar. Of course, Notre Dame keeps stats throughout fall camp, and Freeman said they were very similar. And he said, and I quote, "At the end of the day, had to throw it out the window and make it on other factors, and that those factors are like we've talked about on the show before, the traits that whichever traits Notre Dame would prefer, and it's obviously not just Freeman, it's Mike Denbrock, it's Gaduli who have to make this call, but Freeman is the one with the final say, and he went with Carr."
Yeah, and it's like reading between the lines of this press conference, I think there was a lot of, if you're a pessimist, and I'll put my hand up. Sometimes I go down that line of thinking, just like to try to be skeptical is probably a better way to put it. I think there's some people on our message board who kind of said, "Ooh, I don't like the way he answered your question, Tyler. Like he doesn't sound sure of himself." I don't think it was that. I don't think Marcus Freeman is trying to talk himself into the idea of CJ Carr being this team's starting quarterback. I think it was more, man, this thing was actually as close as it appeared, and he just kind of had to make a decision. And again, I will keep reiterating that I love that he just kind of came down to it. And again, Jack, you make a good point to say Mike Denbrock was in on this. Gino Gaduli was in on this. But at some point they had to name a starting quarterback, and they did. And I thought he hit on all the key points in the press conference with both quarterbacks, the way he arrived on the decision, and then kind of what he said about CJ Carr. Put it this way, if everything that he said about CJ Carr is true, with the intelligence, the intangibles, the confidence, the swagger, the ability to make other teammates better, that was another thing that he said about Carr. He's like, he elevates everyone's level of play. If all of those things are true, Notre Dame's going to be just fine. So that's kind of what this is.
That is true, but at the same time, like if the reality was, oh, I wasn't thrilled with either of them, and we went with Carr because that's what we thought it was going to be at the beginning, like he wouldn't have said that. Like the truth will come out over the next 14 weeks is I think a good note to end this on. Like there's nothing Freeman that could have said that would have convinced anyone either way, nor should it.
All right, we got our first depth chart of the season. What position battles are sorted, Jack? And then what's not sorted? Looking at you, right guard position.
Yeah, right guard is still very much an ongoing competition, or at least that's the line Notre Dame is going with. It's on the depth chart. It's an or starter between Gerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher. Notably, Lambert's name is listed first, and like we said on our stand up earlier today, I'm not sure if that's online yet, but if not, it will be soon. It typically, if it's really truly even, it's listed alphabetically, and L is after A in the alphabet. But yeah, Lambert or Absher. Freeman did say, I asked him about this. Freeman said they could both be involved in the game plan, which again is another thing we discussed earlier today. Like they could be a rotation. Maybe they play different guys in different situations. But I do think it's a credit to both these guys have earned the opportunity to start. And that's why this is really coming down to the last minute.
Yeah, Jack, getting onto something that also is settled, but I thought was kind of peculiar. Were you expecting to see Jaden Greathouse and Will Pauling with an or? Like, is that an elevation of Will Pauling?
I think that says a lot more about Pauling than Greathouse, but that's something that Tyler James had in his depth chart projection.
Can I chime in here? Because I thought it was interesting that Greathouse and Pauling were the or and not Faison. Faison had his own starting designation, no or with anyone.
Pauling is primarily a slot. I think what they'll do to get Greathouse more reps is move him around a little bit. They'll move Pauling around a little bit. They might even move Faison around a little bit. I don't think Greathouse being the or spot says anything about him. I think it's a lot more about Pauling being primarily a slot and being a member of that top four. I think like the top 4 are going to split reps relatively evenly.
Where we don't have an or on the depth chart, Jalen Stroman at the field safety. He's your starter there. I guess I would say I got that one a little bit wrong. I was really high on Luke Talich. Still am. He's still going to play a whole lot, but I think it's a really good thing for Notre Dame that Jalen Stroman didn't do the Rod Hurd where it's like, okay, I'm coming in, but I'm not even going to be a starter. And I mentioned this on the board. Rod Hurd was still a very good and useful player for Notre Dame. They leaned on him a lot in a lot of different situations, but this is a guy in Stroman who's coming in and he's like, you know what? This was my opportunity, last opportunity to be a starter at this level. I'm going to do that. And he beat out some really good players to do it in Luke Talich and Tay Johnson. So Jack, I think that like him winning that battle over 2 up and coming guys that we thought might take it from him is probably a good thing for Notre Dame.
It could be. I will also say that last year, I don't think Hurd losing the job really had much, if anything, to do with Hurd. That was just more Schuler emerging way more than Notre Dame thought he would. And obviously, like you said, Hurd was a good player for them, and he was a necessary player for them. But that was much more on the Schuler side than the Hurd side. And of course, Talich and Johnson will be involved in the game plan as well. Some other position battle updates. Kicker, Noah Burnett will be the kicker against Miami. Freeman said last week that if the game was last week, it would be Burnett. It is still Burnett. Kickoff specialist, junior walk-on Marcello Diamiti, junior who hasn't played much except for garbage time the last couple of years. He'll have a role on game day, so that's obviously nice for him. And third string quarterback, which I believe is the first time since I've been on the beat that Notre Dame has listed a third quarterback on the depth chart, is Tyler Buckner. He beat out Blake Hebert. So in the immortal words of Eric Hansen, if CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie are abducted by aliens, then you will see Tyler Buckner on game days.
You will see Tyler Buckner on game days as the primary holder as well.
I should say Tyler Buckner on game days on offense in a non-play capacity.
I think Juicy J on our board said he's got a feeling that it's going to come down to that. Look, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you might love Tyler Buckner to death with everything you've got in your heart, but if it comes down to that, you're probably going to look like Mike Singer eventually because you with his hands in his head, you don't want that. You want Carr. You want Carr to be the guy through and through all the way, and that would suck for Kenny Minchie, but like. Again, good for Notre Dame if you just have to rely on one quarterback. I thought it was interesting that Bryce Young's atop one of the defensive end spots without an or above Joshua Burnham and Logan Thomas. That's my guy. I've been saying it on these six-pack shows for weeks and weeks and weeks now. I think he's going to lead the team in sacks. If he is indeed the starter and gets – look, a lot of guys are going to play there. We said it in the first segment of this. But if he gets at least a few more – shares of the snaps, then I think he will be that guy. And someone mentioned in the comments, Nolan James on the depth chart as the 4th running back. Jabron Payne left off the depth chart. Nolan James is a dude, everybody. I think that's like, don't take anything away from Jabron Payne coming back from the injury. That stuff's hard, but Nolan James, believe when Mike Denbrock said, this dude can play. If that Notre Dame running back room wasn't as deep as it is, he'd get out there just like you saw Aeneas Williams out there as a true freshman.
One last note. I think, like, in general, the depth chart has more names on it than we've seen in years past. Like, I don't think they would have listed a third string nickel last year. I don't know if that – in fact, I'm pretty sure that doesn't actually mean anything, but it was just something I noticed earlier today. Mike, you're muted.
Thank you. Just real quick, guys, do you have any thoughts on, like, does the depth chart reveal anything about who could be that 5th receiver or no?
No, I mean, it confirms who's 5 and 6, but it'll either be Smith or Micah Gilbert.
Okay. And Burris was listed as well, which if he's 7, I think that's solid. I mean, Elijah Burris as a true freshman listed on there, I think is
7, 8, 9 is probably Burris, Saldate, Williams in that order. Obviously, depending on if Notre Dame needs those guys, it depends on who gets hurt. If a slot guy gets hurt, obviously Saldate steps up.
Folks, On 3, our parent company is teamed up with BetMGM, and Blue and Gold has as well. So we'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners our listeners and obviously YouTube audience each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, that's on 3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3, ON3 again. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, folks, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 on 3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Okay, let's see if I can't figure out how to get this back up on the screen. There we go. Notre Dame, Miami. We do have football in a few days, Jack. Using that BetMGM line, Notre Dame opened or currently is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. How are you feeling about this game, Jack? Let's talk about this matchup.
Like a lot of games, I think it'll be decided on the line of scrimmage. We talked about this earlier today, but like you see Miami's roster, there's a lot of transfers all around. Where they do not have a ton of transfers, they have like one big one on either side. Is the O-line, D-line, and that's a big plus for Miami. And I was actually looking at some Carson Beck numbers earlier today. He, in terms of PFF passing grade, and this is in my story from earlier, in terms of PFF passing grade, he was 7th out of 84 qualified quarterbacks when not pressured. He was 82nd out of 84 when pressured. So that's a huge disparity, and it tells you have to get pressure on Carson Beck.
Yeah, for me on this side of the ball, and then I guess we'll go to the other, it's the same thing. All the talk about Miami and how this offense might differ from last year's that was objectively out of this world good, led by a number 1 overall NFL draft pick in Cam Ward. I guess you start there. It's, can Carson Beck, they're not the same player, but can he produce at, this crazy clip that Ward was? With a wide receiver core that is completely different. I mean, Ward, you could probably say Ward made a lot of those guys look, I wouldn't say better than they were, but like you have a really good quarterback. He's going to be throwing you open and getting out of some crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden you're wide open when the play shouldn't even be going on and all that. Can Carson Beck operate an offense at that level? Probably not. He definitely can't if Notre Dame is owning the line of scrimmage, because you're going to rattle him a little bit. He's a different quarterback. Everybody is when they're under duress. And then all of a sudden, you have a bunch of weapons that were not the ones that Cam Ward was throwing to last season. So for me, Jack, it's, if Notre Dame is winning up front on this side of the ball, that means they're getting to Carson Beck, and that means they're probably stymieing Miami's rush offense. At that point, this Miami offense will not look anything like last year's, and I think that's the game plan for Notre Dame. It's win up front and everything follows, because guess what? You got some really good linebackers and defensive backs if you're Notre Dame playing behind that defensive front. So win up front, everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Right, and we should say that win up front is easier said than done. For Miami, of course, has a really good offensive line. Every Mario Cristobal team generally does, but this one has a potential top 5 pick at right tackle in Francis Mauanoa, and some good players. A lot of continuity for returning starters, plus a center transfer from TCU who's played a lot. On the other side of the ball, and actually real quick on Miami's offense against Notre Dame's defense, I believe if Notre Dame does not pick off Carson Beck, they will not win this game. I do think Notre Dame will pick off Carson Beck probably more than once, because Carson Beck was not a difficult quarterback to intercept last year. But a big reason I will end up picking Notre Dame in this game is because I saw the secondary be super opportunistic when we saw them in fall camp, and I really like that matchup for Notre Dame against Beck. The cops are in the background. I think I live close to a fire station or something. On the other side, though, the biggest misconception in this game is going to be about Miami secondary, because everyone's going to say, "Oh, look what happened against Syracuse last year." This unit stinks. They got 5 or 6 transfers, not just in the secondary, but in the back 7, because we got to include the Rutgers linebacker transfer Mohamed Toure in this group, who are going to help this unit. They have 2 freshman All-Americans from last year in the secondary, in OJ Frederick, the returner, Zechariah Poyser, the transfer from Jacksonville State, is the safety, and one guy in Xavier Lucas, who is really close and who, by the way, they basically upended college football to get. So he better be good. In terms of pure talent, their secondary might be, I don't know if top 15, maybe even top 10 in the game. They have a ton of talent back there. The question is, can that talent with a new defensive coordinator, and it's also new, mesh together in time to stop Notre Dame? That's the $1 million question with Miami's defense.
Totally agree. And it's like, I think one of the biggest things since I've been following college football, not even covering it, but like going back 2 decades, Jack, to when I first really started getting into college football. As a fan, I was like, man, it is really hard to just hire a new defensive coordinator, snap your fingers and be like, yep, this group's going to be a lot better than last year's, and you're going to see it right away. I think that's what Notre Dame has going for it in this game. Yes, everything you said about the secondary is true. And like, if you're really, really bad at something, you should probably try to get better at that. And that's exactly what Miami did by getting all these guys from the portal and by hiring a new defensive coordinator. But I think Corey Heatherman has more on his plate than, I don't know if it's more than people are saying, because obviously people are saying a lot. They need to be better than they were last year to even have fighters' chances against teams like Notre Dame. But when you are playing a team like Notre Dame right out of the gate, dude, it is so tough to just be like, yep, we're going to be better at everything that we were bad at last year, and that's why we're going to be in this game. That's why we're going to win this game. I think a lot of Miami people might be thinking that, but if there is a drive or two, even if Notre Dame looks a little lost with the first time starting quarterback at times in this game, if there's a drive or two where Notre Dame goes right down there and it's like, yeah, we got a touchdown here, touchdown there, that could be huge, and I think it might be possible for Notre Dame as well.
Tyler, you did an article the other day where you said you felt better about Notre Dame's tight ends now, but also listed them as the weakest position. All right, no, maybe not the weakest. I mean, it was the weakest. It was number 8, but I feel like that's a negative. But like, does that speak more to just how good Notre Dame's overall roster is that you had them at 8 and you still feel really good about the position?
Yeah, 100%. And weakest is like, I caught some flack on social media and maybe even on the message board for that. What do you want me to call it if I'm ranking running backs?
Someone's got to be last.
Someone's got to be last, and I wrote that in the article as well. And I do think it's the tight ends because
I don't know if there's any debate about that at this point.
What's up?
I don't know if there's any debate about that. Is like maybe quarterbacks.
Maybe quarterbacks, but you think that the talent,
but yeah,
that like. But put it this way, Jack. You have 4 scholarship healthy. Well, no, I get Tyler Buckner's not on scholarship, but he was at one time.
Scholarship doesn't really mean anything anymore.
Yeah. Tyler Buckner has started games at this level at quarterback. You have 4 of those guys, including Blake Hebert and the 2 that just went through the competition. You have 4 healthy scholarship Notre Dame tight ends right now. Like, that's kind of crazy because you need to use 1, 2. I mean, heck, this is Notre Dame. We used to see 3 or 4 of those guys on the field at one time. I think you obviously see less of that. But I will say the reason that Mike is right. I wrote that I feel better about Notre Dame's tight ends right now than I did at the beginning of fall camp is because Eli Raridan is healthy. Ty Washington was dealing with the wrist, but I think he's going to be okay. In those 2 guys alone, I think in a vacuum, everyone stays healthy. You have exactly what you need in tight end play. Like if Mike Denbrock is saying everything that he's saying, and that's true, and Eli Raridan's a true number 1 guy, awesome. You have someone with SEC experience to back him up and work in tandem with him and all of that. And then you have 2 really talented guys in Jack Larson and James Flanagan that I thought showed up here and there during camp. So in those 4 guys, I think you have enough. You just need them all to play to their potential. That's an entirely different story. And then maybe Cooper Flanagan comes in and saves the day if he has to at some point in like October or November. But yeah, I think both things can be true. I think this is objectively Notre Dame's worst position group right now, but it's also one that I feel better about than I did coming out of camp.
Not only do you have 4 scholarship tight ends at that spot, your top walk-on, Justin Fisher, I forget what he's dealing with. It's on the injury report, but he's out for week 1. And that's not insignificant at this point. Like, you need all the help you can get, or all the potential help, even if one or two more guys go down at that position. I did think it was interesting that Jack Larson was on the depth chart and James Flanagan was not. That's just not what we would, not necessarily a good or bad thing, but that's just not what we expected heading into fall camp. But good for Larson for showing out and getting in the spot to play. I really like Raritan this year. I think that if Raritan is what Denbrock thinks he is a security blanket for a young quarterback at 6'7", who is athletic and agile enough to make plays after the catch. And I don't think there is besides, like, in general, a good offensive line. Mike is 12 years old. Besides, like, a good offensive line, there's no better single asset for a young quarterback than a tight end who can move and make plays after the catch.
I don't want anyone to answer this. Well, I guess you have to if I ask the question. But that's like an internet thing right now, right? Is that what Mike just did?
I don't even know what it means. I just know
I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, "Is that an internet thing?"
Listen, my wife's siblings are all teenagers, so I get the brain rot all the time. So
I'm gonna have to look it up.
You gotta stay off TikTok, Mike.
Yeah, I'm also on TikTok as well.
TikTok, all right. Yeah, I'm not on TikTok. So, like, that's one thing. You look at me, you're like, oh yeah, that dude with the curly hair, he looks like he's 22. He's gotta be on TikTok. No, there's no ball, there's no football on TikTok. Well, maybe there is, but anyway,
there's very much football on TikTok.
Yeah, whatever, man. I get my football other places. Yeah. With the tight ends, it's like you kind of need Raritan to be that guy, because if he's not, everything else seems a little like it comes from the discount store, unless Ty Washington like supersedes what he's supposed to do. But I think, Jack, there's a clear pecking order there right now. So you better get clear, like, production and usage, and just you better feel good about all of those players in that order. It's like Eli Raritan's got to be this, Ty Washington's got to give you this, and if it is Jack Larson who's right below those guys, he's going to have to come in and give you something in some certain situations. If it doesn't happen, then it's going to live up to my ranking of number 8 in those power rankings of Notre Dame's position groups. If it does happen, like if Eli Raritan is the second coming of Michael Mayer and Mitch Evans when he was at his best, then you can be just fine at tight end. But to me, that's a bigger if than Mike Denbrock is letting on with everything that he says to hype that guy in the offseason. It almost seems overhyped at this point.
You also need Raritan to stay on the field, which, like, we have no knowledge that he's dealing with injury right now. He's not, but that's never been a guarantee in Raritan's career, and he did stay. To his credit, I believe he played in every game last season, but it just needs to happen for him. If it does, if Raritan is that guy, you feel pretty good about the group. If Raritan goes down, like, you might need to make 20 personnel your base personnel package.
That sounds fun if you're playing a video game. Just run 20 out there all the time.
Yeah.
Jack, bold predictions for this season. What do you got on your plate here?
You guys Tyler? You want to go back and forth 3-3 here?
Yeah. And if we have more time, then I think I got 5 in the holster that I wrote about the other day.
Bold prediction number 1: Jeremiah Love makes it to New York. I would not have said that before fall camp. There are a couple things that really sold me on this. Number 1, the way they plan on using in the passing game, and number 2, just kind of the way he was moving in some drills and in team sessions. When we've seen him, like, he looks like he did towards the end of last year when he got hurt. And people forget, towards the end of last year, the Virginia, Army, USC game version of Jeremiah Love, that was Love at his absolute best, and the world didn't get to see that in the playoff. And I think the world's going to get to see that this year.
Yeah, I think I wrote in passing that I think he's going to get to New York. I haven't really come out and said it anywhere, but
he's not going to win. To be clear, he's not going to win, but I think he becomes a finalist.
I think I'm there. I think a lot of people are too. Always not going to carry the ball enough, so that is bold. It qualifies. I think Notre Dame beats both Miami and Texas A&M, but still loses to somebody else. And 11-1 is not that bold because I think it's what everyone is picking. But the bold part of that is you beat the two toughest teams on your schedule. I just think we've seen it before with Marcus Freeman teams. I don't think it'll ever be that bad. Like NIU was your lowest point, and Marshall was bad, and Stanford was bad a couple of years ago as well. So it's not going to be like that. But if CJ Carr has a bad day, maybe you lose to Arkansas or Boise State or USC or somebody like that. God forbid Steve Angeli comes in, but maybe Syracuse is good again. So the schedule is, I wouldn't call it sneaky tough, but there is a game somewhere in that final 10 that Notre Dame could lose if it doesn't play as well as it should.
Second bold prediction is the defense does not take a step back. And that is bold for a couple reasons. Number one, because of the coordinator change. Number two, because you lose veterans like Kaiser and Watts. And I know you didn't have Morrison the second half of the season, but Morrison and Cross and Mills. And it's not necessarily the lost leadership. It's just a lot of lost experience. That's hard to replace. But I think the talent level, particularly up front, which we talked about before on the show, is higher. The linebackers are a year more experienced. The secondary, I said before, like they look so good when we saw them, and we've heard similar things out of fall camp too, and we haven't been able to be there. I think the increase in raw talent, the linebacker experience, and just the secondary causing havoc, I think offsets losing the experience and the coordinator change, and I think they either maintain the standard from last year or elevate it, as they like to say.
I don't know if this one is as bold as I'd like it to be, but with all this talk of, we heard it today from Marcus Freeman, hey, Kenny Minchey, we're going to need you. I think Notre Dame is going to need Kenny Minchey way less than the narrative has been in the last week since CJ Carr has been named the starter. And that's because CJ stays healthy and stays productive enough and probably exceeds that productive enough level to start every single game. I think CJ Carr starts all 12 regular season games for Notre Dame this year, probably gets Notre Dame into the college football playoff and becomes Notre Dame's starter for 2026, maybe even 2027 if he's not an NFL prospect by then. I think CJ Carr's the guy, and Notre Dame's going to need Ken. The bolder part of that is Minchey, who I love and thought would win this battle a couple of weeks ago. Notre Dame needing him way less than people are kind of just assuming because it was such a close quarterback competition.
My last bold prediction, I think Notre Dame makes it back to at least the national semifinal. I'm not going to say they will or won't get past there, but man, this team, it is so well coached. It has so much talent. I don't think it looks like, I don't know if they win the first two games or not. I think the first game is a true toss-up. I think they beat A&M, but I don't know that. I don't think they look like they're going to go back to the national semifinal in the first 2 weeks, but I think they will get there because the quarterback is going to improve. The team has that much talent, and much like last year, they're going to be playing their best football. They're going to figure out who they are down the stretch. I think they are going to, maybe not as magical of a playoff run as they did last year, but I think January is going to be a fun time in South Bend.
People hate me for this one because I put it in my article the other day. I think Notre Dame loses in the first round of the college football playoff. I think
I don't get this one. Like, why?
I don't know. It's so hard because you don't even know who they're going to play. And I don't even think like last year's run catches up to them at any point. But college football is weird. College football is wacky. I don't think we see as chalky of a, like the first round was just straight chalk last year. It's Notre Dame's playing at home. I love Marcus Freeman at home against teams that are actually good. He usually wins those games, but I don't know. I think as much as I'm starting to come around on CJ Carr and I love his game for this season, it wouldn't shock me if a redshirt freshman has a redshirt freshman game in his first playoff start and somehow Notre Dame loses that game.
As long as Notre Dame doesn't get in the 5-12 game against a MAC school, I like the Irish to win that first game. That's kind of how I feel.
You don't want them to play a MAC. In my brain, I was just like, you don't want to play a MAC school? And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe you don't.
The Boise State rematch would go crazy there.
Yeah.
No, they're not MAC.
This wouldn't be bold, but like I could also see Notre Dame going 11-1, somehow getting one of those first 4 seeds, and losing that game. Like, maybe I should just say I think Notre Dame loses its first playoff game, but like, again, guys, I could totally come around and once I see that match, like, for example, once I saw that Indiana matchup last year, I mean, maybe there were some Notre Dame fans that were a little scared. It's like, oh no, we can't lose to this in-state school at home. I saw it and I was like, Notre Dame's totally going to win that game. But by December, I could be thinking the exact same thing. I see the matchup. I know where the game's played. I could be like, Notre Dame is totally going to win that game. That's why it's a bold prediction right now.
Got a $5 super chat from Indy Lunchbox. Says, love the show, guys. Indy, thank you. And he takes on Bear Bachmeier being named starter at BYU.
I love a quarterback in number 47. That just goes incredibly hard. Mike can talk more about him as a player.
I love his name more than him wearing 47. I'll say
and
that.
I also love the Bear throwing the Tiger on the Cougars.
I don't have any take. I mean, I don't know.
The zoo out in Provo.
I could talk about his recruitment.
Yeah, I was gonna say he went to the Notre Dame game last year, a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, Mike picked him to go to Notre Dame.
I did.
Was that last year or 2 years ago?
No,
that was the weekend Deuce committed.
Okay.
Yeah, that was quite the week. Yeah.
Good podcasting here.
I have several things going in my brain. I'm like, where do I even want to go with this? It was a little bit of a disaster / like I don't know if I should say this. I feel like there's been a couple times in my career. See, Ryan says Mike was off that year, bro. No, there's been a couple times in my career where I feel like I may have been used for a prediction. I've been used. You kind of get what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
It was a tactic. And
frankly, I was thinking that before you said it.
I mean, I haven't like confirmed that to be true, but I think part of it, I feel like I was used to, in a sense, get Deuce to commit, and it worked. It just didn't work out in the end. It worked initially. Notre Dame won the fight, just not the war. So
hey, we're all pawns in someone else's game at some point.
Yeah, but there 100% could have been a scenario where Deuce doesn't, like, because Notre Dame essentially squeezed him to commit, like, hey, Bear's coming, he's going to commit, Singer's got a prediction, whatever. That's kind of how I feel like that went down, at least. And there's a world where Deuce says, no, I want to take my time, and then Bear comes and commits. So that is definitely something that could have happened. And like he did pretty much come to commit, though. Like that's what happened in terms of Bear's visit, and or at least like the plan going into it. But yeah, it's obviously not
I think what Indy Lunchbox is also wondering is, like, did Notre Dame consider flipping Bear once Deuce didn't work out, or no?
Not really. I think there may have been a "Hey, you up" text, but nah, not really. Nothing serious. They moved on Blake Hebert pretty quick. And Jack, to your point about the 47 thing, I like it on another team. It's fun. I don't want it on my team.
I had this conversation with someone on the message board about like quarterback numbers, and I love 12 personally. Just a lot of really great quarterbacks to wear that, but I'm down with CJ Carr's 13. I thought Riley rocked that last year. Not as in on 8 for Kenny Minchie, and that's coming from a Cowboys fan who saw Troy Aikman.
I think both 8 and 13 I think are pretty good quarterback numbers.
Yeah, way better than 47.
14 is bad. I think 18 and 18's okay. 19 and 14 are just the worst. One I don't like, and the rest are fine.
It depends. It depends on the quarterback. Like if it's Cam Newton, then I think he looks good in one. Although he wore 2 in college, didn't he? Dang it.
There's got to be some sort of matrix out there that has like ranks the best quarterback numbers of all time based on who's won them. I'm telling you, 12. Tom Brady, obviously.
On this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
All right, we are going to end the show there. Indy Lunchbox, I appreciate the super chat. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. Our next live show will be tomorrow night with a new hire at Blue and Gold. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you guys then. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, I believe we'll be going live. So I will catch you guys then. And yeah, you guys enjoy your day. And yeah, see you next time.